let it go. And by then, we don't even have the crude oil. You know, they were just exploring it then. So everything was going on well. But, you know, it's about leadership. You know, it's about, they were the ones leading us before we left, though in a form of colonial kind of rule. But now we transitioned into our own kind of rule, and there's been a leadership deficit over the years. We started off with great visionary men like the Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewas, you know, the men of great vision who could cast into the future and say that this is what Nigeria is going to be. And people were inspired. People followed them. They were transformational leaders, but they were also people who had that kind of charismatic way of leadership that people could see them and could be inspired. Now, what is going on right now in Nigeria is that we both need a transformational leader and someone who is charismatic enough to, you know, to woo the people. We know Mr. President's style is kind of relaxed, but at times we need some kind of smiles. We need some kind of messages that will inspire us to move for a greater future. You know, it's not just a reaching statement, something that comes from the heart, that is passionate, that is saying, you know what, we are Nigerians, we're in this together. Let's hope, let's believe. Organize something that would uplift the people, a celebratory kind of tune. This is when it comes to national reorientation and social engineering. There are things that they do so that people can be lifted and can aspire for greater things. And that's what we need in Nigeria, a leadership that would cast into the future and will say, you know what, we are going to get there, come what may.
I need to come in here because, you know, he mentioned leadership. That possibly, okay, the colonial masters started well, and then, let me say, they handed over to Nigerians to start up what they need to do. Now, what is really the problem? Is it that some of our leaders, or the past leaders we've gotten, the present leaders, do not really understand how to run a nation, or probably we are not...
they were not ready.
Ready to do it?
No, far from that, for me, I see it differently. You see, we must speak it. 1914, when the country came together by amalgamation, and you know, it was a fine idea. It was a very fine idea. The South is where you call the South now. We're operating on their own. The North, we're on their own, and not they were on their own. But when we came together, we came in as a country, believed in unity, and believed in ourselves. But a few things that I consider as fundamental in human relations and interpersonal cohabitation have been found missing from inception, from day one. The British came and did what they could do because they tried to liken our society to their society that, you know, people could, you know, easily trust one another.
Yeah.
The Nigerian society has been built on a total, how do I put it now, structure of distrust, mistrust. You see, it's only when we're in parties and we laugh at ourselves and all that, we say, okay, fine. Or we find Nigerians outside here, outside the shores of the country, the different tribes, they try to say, it's my brother, it's my sister. But right inside here, the level of distrust between the different tribes is so annoying. Short of that, even within the different tribes themselves, there's this problem of, hey, you are inferior to my... I use Igbos, for instance. I don't know if it's still there, but this would be what to call Osu caste in those days. If you're an Osu caste and if that's where you are from, you are not like to be lucky to marry somebody else from outside of that caste. You are just pushed aside. It's the same thing everywhere. Come to Yoruba land, they'll tell you, where you guys are minority, and yet they all speak the same language. So there's been this. And secondly, people have lost, even if we had all that at the beginning and we're trying to correct it, people have lost their sense of value in terms of this country. There are no values here anymore. There are no values here anymore. Children now, call a 5-year-old, what do you want to be in the future? Because what the TV shows every day. The media, what the kid sees. You know, we say it's what you see that your mind conjectures. Yeah. What the kid tells you, rather than looking at, look, I want to be this and help this. The kid just looks at, oh, what's happening here? I want to drive a big car. And the kid will go ahead and tell you the cars.
So we're talking about the social value.
The values here are totally misplaced, and this will mean that we need to re-engineer the country totally, and this must start from the schools. First and foremost from the homes, and then to the schools. And then you can go it from there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jermaine Solo, One New Nigeria project is a very huge project. A new Nigeria. How can we attain that new Nigeria? Of course, but that means that there's an old Nigeria, where we must move to a new Nigeria. And that means there must be some kind of paradigm shift, a line of thought. So how can we get to that? I call it the promised land, a new Nigeria.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is simply the map of Nigeria with one end, one nation. That's what we're talking about. And it's all about promoting unity and celebrating our diversity. Nigeria is a nation filled with so many people, so many resources, so many intellectual and natural resources that we have at our disposal that we can use to uplift us to a great height. Now, the One New Nigeria project is centered around personal transformation for national reformation, whereby we have to look at ourselves individually, first of all, and say that for there to be a new Nigeria, it must start with me being a new Nigerian. We have to look at the issue of national identity, not focusing on where we are from when it comes to the Igbo land or the Fulani or the Efik or wherever we are. We're looking at, we are first Nigerian. You understand? We are one people, and from there we can begin to manifest our beauty in different kind of ways. So let's look at it that it's not just where you're from, but it's the whole that you represent that really matters. And that's what we're talking about in this One New Nigeria project now, that we must continually work towards a new Nigeria. Talking about the old one, we can look at the old one saying that it is what we actually are experiencing right now, where people are frustrated, where people don't like what they see, where things are working but not as well as we hope for them. It's a new Nigeria, but in the future there's going to be good roads, there's going to be water, there's going to be good healthcare service. At this point in time, we have to be visionary, not just in the leadership, but also in our communication. We have to start speaking life into our future. People have been using hate speeches. We now have to start speaking with love speech right now, saying that Nigeria will be better. When you see someone when we go to church, we say it is well with me. Why not start saying it is well with Nigeria? No matter what we are seeing going on, we are saying it is well with Nigeria. It's going to be new, not just a new Nigeria, but one that is united. Not that one has broken off the Arewas or the iPod or the people, the Oduas. No, we are saying we are united, we are one new nation, and that is going to be a reality in my generation.
Well, very motivational. But Mr. Mashola Vincent, the president said the unity of this country is not negotiable. Human rights activists have also argued that we must discuss to live together because of the diverse, mindset or perception. Yeah. Mr. Vincent, looking at the various agitations, America, Britain have said we don't recognize IPOB as a terrorist group. The federal government did not find that funny. But from the look of things, it looks like all over the world. In Britain, we saw what is happening, the referendum. We saw, people are beginning to say, look, we just want to go our own. We just want to do our own thing. Can we stop this agitation? Or we need to discuss?
For me, we need to keep discussing. We don't discuss once and forget it. It's a continuum. Nigeria is a continuum. Discussions must continue. We must continue discussions. Or else, why do we have a National Assembly? Why do they discuss every week? Why don't discuss once and go? Discussion is a continuum. We must keep discussing Nigeria. We must keep discussing our cohabitation. We must keep discussing the progress of this country. We must keep discussing our unity. We must keep discussing several other issues. But for me, the most important of the issues on the ground today, and if we resolve it, if Nigeria can resolve this, there will be a lot of peace all over the place. Today in this country, you have governors who are living like lords of the manor, who are living, and yet they are not paying salaries of their workers. How do you expect a worker who is not being paid for 9 months, for 6 months, for 7 months upwards, to see Nigeria and see the state and see the governor and see his environment as one he should throw love? It's not possible. We have a lot of rhetorics on this whole thing. one Nigeria, we love ourselves and all that. A man who is not fed, who is hungry, will not look at one Nigeria. The man looks at something else. When you're talking, these flags of us are carrying today and playing with today, some persons just sit and dump it somewhere else. Reason is not far-fetched. They love this country. But the same country they see persons who they see as their leaders and their people living like kings and living good, and yet it's not as if they are not working. They are working. They can't get paid. The man gets home and the wife looks at him in the face and says,
now concerning the agitations from different sections of the country, this mentality that, look, we want to go our separate ways. We can manage ourselves. We've been marginalized for too long. Would we? Would that pay us?
That's not going to pay us. But I think let's come back home to agitations in this country. No, the agitations in this country. Nobody forget about hype-up. Nobody's willing to break away. They are calling for recognition. Attention. We are here. Look at us. You've ignored us for a while now. Come, give us attention, and that's what's going to happen here. Nobody's going to. Look, this whole thing is just the shenanigans of people from regions. Look, let's get recognition. And the individuals who are leaders, look, let me be recognized worldwide as leader of these spaces and all that, and then let my region be recognized. Nobody's willing to break away. The fact that they're calling the attention of people, look, our roads are bad, our schools are bad, there's no employment. And the government, it's high time the government begin to focus on all of this here. It's not by private jets and all that we're flying around the country.
I really quickly want to ask you, you mentioned recognition, attention. Yes. Now, will restructuring, as Atiku said, probably make this better? Because in as much as you want attention, and restructuring is more or less like, okay, every state is responsible to whatever funds and resources they have. Of powers. So now, what do you think? Do you think with that, they will get the attention they need, they will get the recognition they need, and then we wouldn't have agitation?
Yeah, you see, for me again, I come back home. You see, for those persons who are politicians who use this as their rhetoric stand for campaigning, I say they are not being sincere with us. Some of them have been fortunate to be around the corridors of power sometime and be there. These issues, these things they are aware of, they didn't play them up. As we speak, restructuring, as the name for today, as the name states today, for me, Nigeria of today is a political statement. And politicians are trying to ride on the back of restructuring to get into the top. For me, it's no deal. Restructuring, probably we'll look for some other name to call it.
To call it.
Yes, to call it. And then let us leave these politicians out of it. And then let us come back home. Are you getting me? Let's start from home. Let's begin to talk to ourselves. Where are our needs here? Where are we failing? Where are our leaders, traditional leaders, and where are they failing? And can we talk to them and call them to book? And then we'll begin to, from there, we'll take it up to the next level. The next level takes it up. But it's not when some government sits down and say, I appoint XYZ as members of a panel or somewhere in Abuja to sit down and they receive 4 million naira every month and say they are doing some restructuring for Nigeria or plan restructuring for Nigeria. Yes, they might come out with those things, but are you actually in connection? I mean, there's a disconnect really for what I care between this set of people who go to National Assembly. I remember Jonathan did that before he left office, and yes, he didn't even look at that report. There was a total disconnect between these people and the earnings of the people down there. Yeah. Okay. That's my.
I need to say this. You talked about one Nigeria is basically easy to say. And then let's see the place of mindset in this, because he mentioned something that people are hungry and people are particularly about they're in Nigeria, they're not getting what they're supposed to get, and then it's like they're not thinking of that one Nigeria. So how easy it is to change people's mindset, to let them key into this project of one Nigeria and leave the old Nigeria?
The whole Nigeria.
Well, we are Nigeria. You understand, individually. And if you look at the economy, you look at the system of Nigeria, what is contributing to a lot of employment on a low level in the sectors that are informal sectors. They provide a lot of jobs for people, up to 80% of the economy. All these jobs, when you see mechanics, you see people in the bakeries, you see all these kind of things happen. So they, in that microcosm, Nigeria is being developed. The system is being worked to ensure that these people's needs are being met. Now, on the macro level, on the larger scale, you have to look at it that there must be a form of restructuring for us to see a new new Nigeria. They said that even though if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do?
Yeah.
So the righteous is someone whose mind has been reformed, who has been redeveloped, who has been born again to be able to see a new picture of a brighter future, which is a new Nigeria, which is united. Now, but if the foundation is wrong, what's going to happen? Now, if the constitution which governs our country is fundamentally flawed when it looks at the way we actually share resources, it's more unitary. Oh, Nigeria is not falling down, it's standing up. We are one. You understand? Yeah. If fundamentally is flawed, what is going to happen is that nothing you develop on it is going to be good. So I remember a good look at Goodluck Jonathan administration. They had those reports and they passed it on to this administration. And I'm sure right now, because there's a paradigm shift, there's a change in dialogue, people's awareness are being heightened right now. They're saying right now, in this present dispensation, there has to be a one new Nigeria whereby our dreams and our individual needs will be met so that the collective good will be actually achieved.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this is just the first session where the broadcast will continue in a moment. But before you leave, Mr. Vincent, what is the way forward?
The way forward for me, as we speak, I share very sincerely Jermaine's optimism for Nigeria. I hope you get it right. I know you are not 50 yet. So I know you're not 50 yet. So let's not talk about 57.
Yeah.
For some persons who saw this and they're 57 today, I don't know how to qualify them. Nigeria just needs some very, very thorough cleansing as we speak now to get to the level that we expect. Not perfection, but to a level where people, I'm hopeful, I'm very, very hopeful. It's my country.
Mr. Jermaine?
Yeah, and there's a lot of hate speech going on right now in Nigeria. In the One New Nigeria project, we want there to be love speech. We want there to be one speech. So with the same tools of propaganda when it comes to photos and videos and audio messages that people send around to cause division in this country, we are saying right now, let everybody lend their voice towards a one new Nigeria. Get on your mobile phone, start engaging your friends, start talking about that new Nigeria, start speaking words of life into the country, and I believe we're going to see it. And also visit our website, onenew.nigeria.org, and join this dialogue of change.
Thank you very much, Jermaine Sanwo-Olu, leader, One New Nigeria Project. Thank you very much. And of course, Mr. Mashola Vincent, thank you. If time permits us, you might just still need to be around. Where we come back, this is a special broadcast. We'll be looking at the Nigerian economy. Well, we are told, and we know that this is one country with so many natural resources. We've not even talked about the human resources. But to what extent have we harnessed these natural resources to become one of the strongest economy, not only in Africa, but in Nigeria? Myself and Muduko will be right back after we start off.
The coat of arms is a design on the shield used by countries or states as a special or personal symbol. In 1960, different coat of arms was used by the three regions, the northern, the western, and the eastern regions. And when the Midwestern region was created, it also made provisions for its own coat of arms, increasing the number to 4. When Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, then the head of state, created 12 states out of the 4 regions, each state had its own coat of arms. In 1975, the federal government put an end to the use of different coat of arms. The country then adopted a single coat of arms, which will serve as a symbol of unity. The black shield on the coat of arms represents the earth, the goodwill of Nigeria, while the silver wavy blends is shaped like a Y, representing the rivers Niger and Benue and their confluence. The flowers on which the shield stands are Cactus spectabilis, a common wildflower in Nigeria. The bird on the coat of arms, an eagle, represents the strength of the nation. The 2 horses stand for dignity as a people. The national motto is displayed on a ribbon below, saying unity and faith, peace and progress. The state's flag places the nation's coat of arms in the center of the white stripe. This is the same flag used by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, depicting government's presence in offices and other public places.
We are one great mighty nation of the peoples of the earth. May we live and die in service to humanity. On this day, let's raise our banner as we follow truth and love. In this land forever blessed by God, a home for all.
God bless Nigeria, my home, sweet home. God bless Nigeria, my home, sweet home.
Yes, please.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. It's still this special broadcast on Nigeria's independence, and we tag this Nigeria, a nation of destiny, at 57, hope for a better future. So looking at the economy today, yes, I remember that the president talked about rebalancing the economy, not to depend on crude oil in our speech today. So a lot more we will be doing, looking at that, Nigeria resources, and how we can get to revitalize the economy to make it better. So with us this afternoon is, to my right, let me start there because the surname is really easy to call. It's Mr. Uzo Chibuko, economic and financial expert right in the studio today. Good afternoon and thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
And I think to my left, I give that to Ben anyway.
Okay. It's our pleasure to welcome Mr. Ikechukwu Nogu. He's a Nigerian-American business expert. You're welcome, sir,
Thank you,
to this program. Well, when you look at the Nigerian economy, people will tell you it's a question of naira and kobo. I don't know if Mr. Chibuko will agree with me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, naira and kobo. But let me start with Mr. Ikechukwu, attorney. He's also a legal practitioner. You have the American background, and you're also a business operator in the American business market, especially in the property market. And of course, you've also tasted, but I noticed that you're coming to Nigeria, you tend to be a little bit on the edgy side, a little bit very careful, very cautious, investing, doing some huge investments in Nigeria. What are your fears really about the Nigerian economic environment?
I guess what you're trying to say, there's a constraint in the Nigerian way of doing business.
Yes.
And those constraints lies on, you cannot divorce political with the economy. It's difficult. The policymakers in this country have made it so difficult for an average business person to actually strive. And I can give you examples. For example, in the United States, for you to register a company, you can just do that within the confines of your home. But right here, you have to meet
Go to
a lawyer,
CSC.
you have to pay this, you have to do that, you have to do that. Beyond that, you can't lay your hand on finance. The funding of your project is difficult. You got to know somebody in this bank, you got to know somebody in that. So I'm looking at it from the general perspectives that Nigeria, as it were, does not give entrepreneurship the opportunity they need in order to strive. So that is actually from the point I'm looking at.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Yeah.
But they keep saying this about entrepreneur because I remember I read a report where the vice president said that Nigerian graduates should not be job seekers, but they should think of how to create jobs. And then they keep talking about this, like, okay, get a business of your own, be the boss, and so that we can revitalize the economy. Now, looking at what you said about Nigeria is not giving us that template to say, okay, let's entrepreneur to strive. Now, would you now say they're just mere talks or mere encouragements and nothing more?
Well, it might not be mere talks, but it's not trickling down. Because once they're up there, they are making policies. And those policies requires people with pragmatic ideas that will bring it down to the ordinary people. So that's actually one of the problems. Policies have always been there, but implementation is a problem. So I'm telling you that as far as Nigeria is concerned, we need to have a different thing. We have to have a rethink on the way we want to bring a business. Look at it from the general perspectives. Do you know that most of the multinationals that are here don't even believe in the Nigerian project, even though they're here to do business? But the fact lies that all their money is being carted away back to their country. So that left the country with nothing. But if the foundation is wrong, and that is what we have our government to do, our government must do what is right by making sure that the playing field is leveled, by making sure that the right infrastructures are in place, like the power, like all manner of things that requires business to strive. We don't have them here. So that's the problem.
Mr. Shibuko, economic team. The government had to put, each government usually have economic teams. And if you look at those who constitute the economic team, yes, to some extent you have some eggheads who can make things happen. But along the line, just like you said, we don't see these policies materialize. I just said the Nigerian economy is about naira and kobo. Today the dollar is it 360?
360.
Yeah, I mean, this was a currency that was at par with the dollar in the 60s.
Yes, 1 to 1.
You are going to.
Yeah. What is
going to far to say in the 60s?
What is the problem, really? How can we get this economy back on track?
You see, okay, let's just run around it a bit. The first challenge is a common challenge with most black Africans. Inability to plan ahead. If I throw a simple question now, like, what is the estimated population of Nigeria in 5 years' time? How do we plan their housing? How do we plan transportation for them? That's the people that will live here in the next 5 years. Now, what's our problem? Started right from independence. Immediately the white people left, that idea of planning, strategic planning, collapsed. Hence, today we need like between 15 to 20,000 megawatts of electricity. We are struggling for between 4 and 7. Do you get what I'm saying? We need like between 15, 20, but we are still between 4 and 7 megawatts. So what happens? Because nobody has planned that in the year 2017, we will have about 190 million Nigerians. Nobody planned for it.
There was no futuristic.
Yes. As an independence, precisely, Nigeria was just about between 40-45 million people. So you can see within these 57 years, we have grown to 190. So at average of 2.53 million per year, the population of this country kept on increasing. Now, even as we are now, nobody is saying what will be the likely consumption capacity of the power consumption required in the next 30 years. That's how the developed nations think. I'll tell you, the UAE, I read something, is planning on going to Mars to create a place in Mars that will take 600 people, and that will take them like 100 years. They have started working on that today. 100 years, that means none of the people planning it will be alive by that time, but they're already working on it. But Nigerians will wait for things to hit us. Governance is not a transaction, it's a project. That means you should be able to think forward. Transaction is that I want to buy a face cap I give you money, you give me face cap, and I take a walk. Do you get what I'm saying? That is not, it's not a transaction, it's a project. So there is need for that planning. That is where the entire, whatever they call them, economic team, because those economic team come to do transactions. How do we manage dollar? How do we man? That's not it. The problem did not start today. What is making dollar expensive started from failure to plan. That is the where the major issues are coming. If you now see why, I don't know whether it was on this one I said, why don't banks give loan? I said, why should they give you loan? If they give you loan and you relocate from number 6 to number 8, you are lost in Nigeria. Am I making some sense? If they give you money, all you need is to relocate. Don't go leave that street too. Just move from number 4 to number 6. How do they track? If you see my face in Nigeria, despite the fact that people see me on television, very few will come out to say, we know this man. So that's how you see non-performing loans in the banks rising. So even when you come, then you need to pass through some rigors that ordinarily should have been waived.
So we need to plan.
So he's coming from America, and I'm telling you that his picture crossing the embassy, they will tell you where he's living in US. The date he left that place, in fact, everywhere he has lived in US will appear immediately.
That's right.
Because they have planned that backbone, it's there. So it also helps. If he borrows money and he doesn't pay, they foreclose on his house. But in Nigeria, you can keep a bank for 20 years and that house will never be sold.
Now, in a situation where for individuals to even access loans, because I spoke with some people and they made it clear to an extent that the people who get those loans are politicians, bigwigs in the country, that is not being made available to individuals. So should I really, is that the reason for what is playing out now?
No. You see, baby, I won't know the discussion. But what I'm saying is this. But loans to individuals is just consumer loans. That's not the issue here. Yeah. Loans to maybe you needed to buy, is the type of, by now in the developed countries, such loans you sit on your system, type, and maybe you want your card, credit card. In fact, they hawk them in Walmart, all those shops. They say, do you want credit card? Those are loans to individuals. The real loan we are talking about here is that loans that you will reinvest in creating wealth.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, okay, Mr. Chumuko, thank you very much. Because of time, we're looking at Nigeria at 57. He just made a valid point that we fail to plan, and that is why this economy is like this. But looking at the resources we have, the natural resources, if you go to the north, of course, in the 60s, we saw the Granite Pyramid. In the southwest, we saw the cocoa. Of course, in the southeast, we also saw the coal, and a lot of. So the question is, Mr. Ikechukwu, what are the practical steps we can take from moving from at the age of 57, because in 3 years we'll be 60. Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. God help us.
Yeah, I guess what you're trying to ask is what can we do right moving forward?
Moving forward, yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. You see, in order for you to go from step A to B, you must realize that you're in step A. Nigeria, as it were, we have not actually learned from our past. What I see, I don't want to be negative, but let me put it in the positive aspect of it. Yeah. In order for us to move forward, the structure has to be right, mostly within the business environment. That has to be rightly put in there. He made mention of United States, where you can, at the comfort of your home, roll out, apply for credit, and it will be given to you and all that. We don't have that. We are not expecting that for now, because it takes a lot of data. You gotta have
data collection. You
gotta have the right, the right data in order to project. If you don't have the right data, you can do nothing. It's quite unfortunate that most of us that had the opportunity to be in the US, we all want to come back home. But when you hear what is happening, those who have been here, what they have gone through, if I tell you that Nigeria has become a burial ground for entrepreneurship. You will be surprised, mostly for people who are in abroad, because the ones that came to taste the water end up having very bad story.
They got their fingers burnt?
Big time. You understand? So what we are talking about is this. You know, it's quite unfortunate that a country like ours, we are still discussing issues that are primary. Primary in the sense that in America, let me even put it to you this way. Most businesses are owned by corporation, whether you like it or not. For you to say, I want to run a business, is actually a very welcoming idea. The kind of support you have from American government is unbelievable. Even within your local county, they call it. But having said that, Nigeria needs to think the other way around. There has to be a paradigm shift into the right direction. We must have a business hub, thinking tank. I mean, I was even surprised that this new dispensation, I'm sure the last dispensation made an inroad into that, does not even have economic thinking tank. What are we talking about? We are talking about bringing people from their walks of lives, different walks of life, businessmen, sit together. How can we actually, what idea do you have? Bring it to the table. And these are the people that actually move the economy, if you really want to know. But we are still in the economy of oil. Today they said we are exporting yam and all that. We have not had enough to eat here. And please give me a break. I don't know where these people are coming from. So we must do something different.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
Reading the speech of Mr. President today, I think I noticed something about agriculture, about federal government agricultural Uncle Boris program, and you know, he actually talked about the amounts they released through the CBN, the farmers, the crops being cultivated, and the governments. Is agriculture really going to? Because he mentioned that exporting yams and lots. So does that say it has nothing to do with the economy? Can it actually help to build the economy?
You see, just if you remember what I said earlier, it is not a transaction. It's something you must see through. If this man plants cassava here, you will harvest it at this point, we preserve it at this point, we need to replant again. You know, that kind of, you must see the cycle, complete cycle. That's in finance, they call it cash to cash. From the time you invested the cash to the time cash comes back to you. You know, that's the cycle. Now, but what we do is that at every point, we try to do what I still call transaction. Where one of our challenges is that the political challenges has overbearing influence on our economic growth. Okay. Now, nothing is certain. Like one government, it's not new. This story is that if you go and read the blueprint of Operation Feed the Nation by Obasanjo in 1978, it's the same story. In fact, I think they are just copying the from there. So the truth is that why did that one fail? Nobody is bothering to address it. In my place, they say if you don't know where rain started beating you, you will not know the point it will dry. Do you get? So the first step is that one did not succeed. Why? We must solve political problems. There are so many things why Nigeria is not really blowing up, apart from poor leadership. Yeah. Is that we are still broken into ethnicity, religious, you know, small pockets. Yeah. Whereby this is the only country you feel CV, they say state of origin. Meaning what? What does it mean? Just say, where do you live? where can we find you? That is what is important. But that state of origin, people have been agitating. Remove it from our records. We don't need it.
Thank you very much. One word has dominated the center stage, and that is restructuring. And some economic experts argue that the kind of restructuring these politicians are talking about, I think the first thing should be economic restructuring. Mr. Ikechukwu, how can we restructure the Nigerian economy? How can we restructure? Because they're talking about diversification. It's not just all about talk. You know, we need to walk the talk. How can we restructure the economy? Possibly if we restructure, the agitations for political restructuring might just fizzle out.
Well, you know, that word restructure have become a mantra these days. And I will take it from the point of, if you talk about restructure from the name, when you're restructuring something, it means that you want to change it. It's either you are restructuring or you are doing renovating. I'm talking from the point of structure. You are renovating or you are doing something else. So, in other words, for us to restructure the economy, certain things has to be in place. And one of those things that have to be in place is people needs to be empowered. You have to go back. Nigerians are individual. They do things individualistic by nature. They do things, they are well talented, they have, just give them the right tools. And they will perform wonders. And you know, like we keep saying in business, you cannot divorce government or politics from economy. It's not, because it requires a political power, will in order to change some certain things. You know, I will argue that all Nigerians are looking for is a playing field where we can all operate. Give us the infrastructure, give us the enabling environment, and Nigerians individually would, you know, will go on.
Will prosper.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to add to that?
Yes, you know why people agitate for whatever name they call it. There is nothing wrong with restructuring. Even things that are working can be restructured for efficiency. Yes. I feel, look, it's working like this, but I need to restructure it. You know, there is no problem with that. The major fear the politicians are having is because of this idea of having a common boss, whereby everybody strolls to at the end of every month to collect money. It has made people lazy. People can no longer reason on their own. You see, there is no state in this country as we are. Father, if you pass somewhere around or side towards the left, you see bitumen, you see them on the road. Why is he just laying waste there? You know why? Because nobody wants to bother about it. Okay. Because there is money to be collected from.
I think, yeah. to wrap up this segment, there is one big monster that has, you know, has become like a masquerade we cannot unmask. But Buhari has attempted it, and it's like he's making a success of unmasking corruption. Corruption is one major attack on the economy. Do you agree? We'll wrap up with that.
Anyway,
if we stop corruption with the Nigerians, because there's so many billions of naira in the burial ground. Where else again?
Yes,
so much money stolen.
Yeah, it's a cliche, I tell you that. Corruption. Of course.
We're running up with that.
Yeah, we are running up with that. I mean, I would say this, that Nigerians are well corrupt.
You are well corrupt.
Very, very. And all that means is this. Because if you find a tomato seller or a groundnut seller, if you don't take time, he will swindle you your money. And you know, they say that the egg, the fish stinks from the head down. Our leaders have no credibility. And every day when I watch television and I see these politicians, I begin to wonder, what if that person is my daddy? And he is being accused of stealing money. Not just being accused of stealing money. If you look very closely, he stole the money. And these people put up a straight face and they're walking on the street. So they use that as a cliche to the, handholders to tell them corruption, they're fighting, and they're doing nothing. I think Nigeria needs to go back to family. We need to be more family oriented. In those days, when we were growing up, your mother would, or your father would continue to tell you, don't steal. But if you have to steal from mine.
Yeah.
Steal from my house.
So I can cover.
So I will know how to handle it. But these days, which means that if you go out and steal, it's not just a shame on you, but a shame for the whole family. But these days, man, what you see out there, I can't even begin to talk. I don't even want to touch it.
I think
So,
it's a problem now. The problem now is when you steal small.
yes, okay.
Punished
That's
for
a
it.
new one.
Yeah, you punished heavily, but when you steal,
Big one, yeah.
now the way you started about the government fighting corruption, neither here nor there, because so far we've had some that you know this thing about if you want to fight, it must be hands off the gloves. Wherever it hits, let it go. But it's like it appears when it's on one side, the EFCC gets involved. When it's the other side, Vice President conducts calls committee to talk to them. That kind of stuff. It's all those are the kind of things that encourage corruption in the country. And what do they now do? They all move to the ruling party.
Yes.
Because they believe that once you get there, you will become new. You are born again. You become new. So it's a big shame. So the only crime in Nigeria as of today, one being in the wrong party and stealing small. Those are the only 10. But
At 57. It's very worrisome.
Sad.
But is there hope, sir?
Yes.
That's the final word.
There is hope. There is hope. In as much as there is life, there is hope. And secondly, we also believe, I have this firm belief that a leader shall arise that will be honest. Hannibal said he might not be a very good man, but he is fair. Do you get? Hannibal is one of the most worst dictators in this world, but he said, I've been fair to everybody. The way I will kill my brother, the way I will kill you if you steal is exactly the same way I will kill my brother if he does the same. Despite the fact that Hannibal was one of the most brutal human beings in the world, but he was fair.
Well, I would say, in line with what you have just said, I would say that there's hope. In other words, we should stop talking about peace, because peace is not something that you can talk yourself into, but rather we should be talking about justice. When there's justice for all, then peace will automatically come. So, based on that, I think we are hopeful. Nigeria is a project.
It's a project.
Let's put it that way.
Let's see, maybe that the overhauling of the judicial system can actually help that to have justice and fairness.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Uzo Chibuko. Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Attorney Ikechukwu. Thank you. Quite inspirational. when you steal from me first. Yeah. That's in those days, right?
Yes.
But now
you get family level.
Okay, Nigeria at 57. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Nigeria at 57. Of course, quite a lot to talk about, but I think we're making some level of progress.
Of course,
so,
we are.
So, what have you gone through another paradigm, another reorientation?
Yes, I think I love the last part that if you're not in the ruling party, or if you're still small, then
that's a problem.
That's really funny indeed.
Okay, we'll just take this time out. If our director is ready, we just want to have a repeat broadcast of the president's speech. When we come back, we have another set of political analysts to talk about this great country.
dear Nigerians, October 1st remains as a official date for all Nigerians, as this marks the day when we attain one of the most precious of human desires, freedom. Over the years, the country has gone through trials and tribulations, but October 1st is always a day for celebrations. It is a day for thanksgiving, reflection, and rededication. It is also a day for remembrance. We should remind ourselves of the recent journey from 1999 to 2015, when our country happily returned to democratic rule. However, in spite of oil prices being an average of 100 United States dollars per barrel and about 2.1 million barrels a day, that great piece of luck was squandered and the country's social and physical infrastructure neglected. We were left with no savings and huge infrastructure deficit. The APC government's campaign, rallying cry to restore security, rebalance the economy, and fight corruption was not all rhetoric. The country must first be secured. The economy must be rebalanced so that we do not depend on oil alone. We must fight corruption, which is Nigeria's #1 enemy. Our administration is tackling these tasks in earnest. In the past 2 years, Nigeria has recorded appreciable gains in political freedom. A political party at the center losing elections of state governor, National Assembly seat, and even state assemblies to the opposition parties is new to Nigeria. Added to these are complete freedom to associate, to hold, and disseminate opinions. Such developments clearly attest to the country's growing political development. But like all freedoms, this is open to abuse. Recent calls on restructure, quite proper and a legitimate debate, has let in highly irresponsible groups to call for dismemberment of the country. We cannot and we will not allow such advocacy. As a younger officer, I took part from the beginning to the end in our tragic civil war, costing about 2 million lives, resulting in fearful destruction and untold suffering. Those who are agitating for a rerun were not born by 1967 and have no idea of the horrendous consequences of the civil conflict which we went through. I am very disappointed that the responsible leaders of these communities do not warn their hot-headed youth what the country went through. Those who were there should tell those who were not there the consequences of such folly. At all events, proper dialogue and any desired constitutional changes should take place in a rational manner at the national and state assemblies. These are the proper and legal fora for national debate, not some lopsided, undemocratic body with predetermined set of objectives. Government is keeping up the momentum of dialogue with stakeholders in the Niger Delta to keep the peace. We intend to address genuine grievances of the communities. Government is grateful to the responsible leadership of those communities and will pursue lasting peace in the Niger Delta. On security, Nigerians must be grateful to our gallant armed forces for rolling back the frontiers of Boko Haram's terrorism, defeating them and reducing them to cowardly attacks on soft and vulnerable targets. Nigeria is grateful to its neighbors and the international community for the collective efforts to defeat this worldwide menace of terrorism. Not even the most organized and most equipped police and security forces in the world can escape the menace of modern-day terrorism, as we have seen in recent years in Europe and other parts of the world. But we are not letting up. Our armed forces, in an effort to enhance the operational capability of troops of Operation Lafia Dole, have established mobile strike teams in the northeast. These will ensure the final push to wipe out the remnants of Boko Haram. In addition, through targeted air strikes, most of the leadership and identified logistic bases and routes of the insurgents have been neutralized. The armed forces have established a naval presence in the Lake Chad Basin as part of the coordinated military efforts to curtail the movements or re-emergence of the sect in the area. Government is working around the clock to ensure release of the remaining Chibok girls, as well as other persons in Boko Haram captivity. Government will continue to support the armed forces and the other security agencies to fight not only terrorism but kidnapping, armed robberies, herdsmen farmers violence, and to ensure peace, stability, and security in our country. With respect to the economy, the government has remained proactive in its diversification policy. The federal government agricultural anchor borrowers program, which I launched in November 2015, has been an outstanding success, with 43.92 billion naira released through the Central Bank of Nigeria and 13 participating institutions. 200,000 smallholder farmers.
Okay, that was President Muhammadu Buhari there, the broadcast. We just took excerpt of that, and of course he talked about security, the economy, and of course most importantly he was very emphatic about the unity of this great country, Nigeria. Okay, just join us in the studio. He's back with us, Mr. Omashola Vincent. Thank you, sir, for staying hanging in there for us. And of course, just join us in the studios, Mr. Olukaude Salako is a national coordinator, change agent of Nigeria Network. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me in the studio.
Happy Independence.
Happy Independence anniversary.
Okay, Dube.
Well, to start with, yeah. Yes, we've had what the president said, and I must say again that now let's go to the issue of agitation, which we've said earlier. Yes, maybe probably they are looking for political recognition. Maybe probably there is much more. But do you think that in all of this, dialogue is basically the key? Because in everything we have in Nigeria, even if it's Fulani herdsmen clashes, if whatsoever, everybody's asking for dialogue, even terrorists, dialogue. So is that the only thing we can do in Nigeria in order to solve or to have peace in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Before I respond to your question,
I'd like to say that I am celebrating two things today. One is the emergence of responsible and ideal leadership in Nigeria. That is what I am celebrating today on the occasion of this Independence Day anniversary. The current political leadership at the federal government level, to me, the responsible and ideal one for Nigeria. So I'm celebrating that. Two, I belong to a social association. Today is our 10th anniversary. And that's why I'm wearing the cap.
Okay.
That is the Executive Elite 007 Club of Nigeria.